and welcome back to Coven Season 3. This is a podcast where we commune with our dream coven, bringing to light the lost stories of enigmatic people throughout history whose fascinating lives echo the complex archetype of the witch. I'm Jenna.
I'm Coco.
And we're your hosts. And today we have a very special guest on this episode of Coven. Coco, I'll let you take it from there.
Yes, Arabella Thais. We were in a class together at California Institute of Integral Studies. I believe you're getting your PhD, correct? You're in the PhD program?
I mean, hopefully. It's been going on for some time.
And she's fascinating. She's a philosopher, a writer, a researcher, and her work explores the metaphysics of time, symbolic systems, and the aesthetic structure of reality. Her research engages with retrocausality, depth psychology, and sacred number, drawing on influences from Heidegger to Hildegard von Bingen. She's also the founder of the Temple of Truth, a mystery school devoted to consciousness, cosmology, and high-frequency living. She speaks regularly for the Scientific and Medical Network and the Galileo Commission and has collaborated with leading thinkers including Bernard Carr, Murray Stein, and Ralph Abraham. And in 2026, she'll convene a landmark symposium at the historic Eranos, is that how you pronounce it?
Correct.
Eranos Foundation in Switzerland, exploring consciousness as part of an ongoing initiative to reimagine the future of science. She also has a podcast, and we'll talk about all of this later. But yeah, Arabella is one of the most fascinating people I have ever met, for sure.
Oh, well, thank you. What a thing to say. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here. Also, I love that you mentioned Hildegard von Bingen because she was one of the first people we covered with this podcast.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
wow. She's so cool. What a legend.
What a legend for real.
Before we get into Arabella's chart, do we want to share our magic moments? I don't even know if we've told Arabella about this part of the podcast, actually.
Yeah. So usually what we do at this part of the show before we dive into the story or the birth chart, we share a magic moment, which is just like a synchronicity or something recently that happened that felt magical or aligned in some way. You totally do not have to share, but I have one prepared. So I can start us off.
I think mine might actually be the same as yours.
So we have a shared magic moment this time. So this past weekend, Coco and I went down to LA for a different Coven interview. And while we were in LA, we were finishing up the newsletter, the Stars Etc. newsletter that we send out monthly. It's an astrological newsletter. And on the newsletter, we curate a playlist. And this season, the playlist, the first song that just felt blaringly obvious for like the symbol of Cancer season this time around was Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. You know that song? Everybody wants to rule.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, turn your back on Mother Nature. It just felt like the obvious choice. And then obviously everything went down with the world on the solstice, and it felt really dystopian and cinematic almost. And then we were getting out for dinner at the end of the day, and as soon as we walk out of the car, we hear a cover band playing around the corner, Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. And we all just like stopped in our tracks. We're like, what is happening? Just felt extremely potently synchronistic. So do you have a magic moment that comes to mind? I know we're putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, I actually do. About 6-7 weeks ago, I had a dream. I love dreams. They're so fascinating and amazing.
12th house.
You know, sometimes you have those dreams which are just like, they're just thick with meaning and sort of archetypal resonance, right? So I'm leaving Switzerland, as I mentioned just before we started recording, and I'm parting from my boyfriend. It's a just to quote Gwyneth Paltrow, she's kind of annoying, but she spoke about conscious uncoupling.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's very
she did
much
that with her partner.
Yeah, and I all credit to her. I think it's something I'm experiencing now, and it's really beautiful. But this is the ending and the beginning. I also alluded to. Okay, and this person is very important to me and very special in my life. And in the dream, we were in our house here in Switzerland. It was very mundane. Everything was as is in the waking world, right? There was almost, you couldn't distinguish it between the dream and the waking world. And he said to me, he looked me kind of square in the face and said to me, "You are the golden phoenix. Everywhere you go, you rise again." And I remembered it. I kind of forgot the dream, and I remembered it later that day. I was like, oh my God, what that is, that feels so potent. I could feel the constellation of the archetype of the phoenix, literally like a substratum beneath me. You know what I mean? It was like
Wow.
embedded within my psyche, and it felt very nurturing. It felt like I was being visited by this archetype of resurrection, rebirth, the ability to transform and transmute your circumstances in a sort of resplendent fashion. I really felt that, and now everywhere I see phoenixes. My friend the next day after that dream sent me a photo of Mount Etna, and it was like from the newspaper of Mount Etna in Sicily, where she and I went last year. And there'd been an explosion, like an eruption, volcanic eruption, and the magma made the shape of a phoenix on the side of the mountain. And she sent me this cutting from the newspaper of a phoenix on Mount Etna.
Wow.
Then like a van goes past saying La Fenice, which is phoenix in Italian. Then I walk past like a man in the supermarket who has this giant phoenix tattoo, whatever, you know how it works. And I'm now constantly see like the phoenix will come to me, and I feel like I have many synchronicities like this where an archetype will constellate and stay with me for a period of time. And it always signals something teleological. So i.e. like it has a direction, it has a purpose, it signifies something to do with my life's trajectory. So Coco, actually, my final paper for our young class was on the kind of aesthetic teleology of synchronicities and their retrocausal purpose.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
But we don't need to go into that for now, but yeah, that's my moment.
That's so cool. That makes a lot of sense with your birth chart too, with the resonance with the Phoenix, because you have your sun at the first degree, which we'll get into your chart, I guess, in this next part, but cool. Your sun at the first degree of Leo and your moon at the last degree of Leo, and these are both in your 12th house. So it's like this fiery, passionate ending and beginning constantly. Makes a lot of sense.
I just got chills. That's so nice.
Yeah, you're like your chart is fascinating. You have 3 stelliums, one in your 5th house, and every planet in that house is retrograde. And then so you have Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus all in the 5th house retrograde. And then you have a stellium in your 11th house with Jupiter, Chiron, and Venus. You have both the benefics there. And then Jupiter is also conjunct your sun, and your sun is conjunct your south node. I mean, as all charts are, everything is connected, but you have your moon, Mercury, your south node, and your sun in your 12th house. So, which is pretty
I don't know what that means. I don't know much about the houses. I actually don't know much about the houses, so I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot from you guys.
Yeah, I was just wondering, well, in particular, Jen and I were looking at your Sun Jupiter conjunction, and especially because Jupiter just went into Cancer and was also conjunct the Sun. We had a Jupiter Cazimi. Was it yesterday or day before yesterday? Day before yesterday,
24th, yeah, 24th.
Yeah. And so I was wondering how this shows up in your life. I mean, I can see it from an outside perspective, getting to know you some, just your wide, vast range of interests, and also just how brilliant you are in every single one of those subjects. But how do you experience it?
Are you talking like broadly in my life at large? These aspects.
Well, in particular, Jupiter conjunct your sun.
Yeah. I would say my zest for life, and my zeal for life is extreme. I really love life. Conversely, my experiences of difficulty and challenge in life have been acute, like my personal experience, right? I have a bipolar diagnosis, so I'm a person of extremes. So I would say the sun Jupiter conjunction, this expression is that's the elation, right? That's my capacity, that when I look at the moon, a full moon, I can burst into tears with the sheer rapture of the beauty. Or if I listen to a Beethoven quartet or I read T.S. Eliot, I am so moved by beauty, the beauty of the universe, the original oneness that moves through me. I feel like my capacity to experience that is quite heightened. Not everyone feels life so intensely, and it's a blessing and a curse. Because Jupiter's it's so expanded. The sun and Jupiter, as you know, they're the two planets that magnify whatever they're next to. So I've got two they're both magnifiers next to each other. So it's a very, very expanded energy, and when I'm in alignment with that, it's incredible. It's incredible. I feel so blessed to be having this experience of consciousness. But I also think, if that's not tempered, and I do that, we don't need to go into this now, but my Jupiter is also in opposition with my Saturn, which I think was given to me as a blessing to help keep that in check. Because often I can find my expansion, or this expansive quality, of experience, is such that I have found it nigh on impossible to function in the ordinary world. Okay, I've never been employed. I've been self-employed. I've earned money. I've done my own things, but I've never been able to get up at the same time every day and go into an office and work for someone else. Can't do that. It's meant that I've regularly had sort of nervous breakdowns in the face of a society that's plagued by meaninglessness. Do you know what I mean? It's like this expansion I feel, and this orientation towards utopia, because I really am sort of obsessed with the notion of utopia, and bringing a celestial realm onto the planet, and bringing heaven onto earth. That is so, non-ordinary. And I really associate this romantic with a capital R, this romantic impulse, Novalis and Coleridge in particular, they saw what was possible. Same as John Lennon, imagine all the people, some people call me a dreamer. It's like, I'm a dreamer, so I really think this aspect speaks to that. Quality of my being is a borderline delusional obsession with beauty and peace and love and ecstasy on earth, right?
Totally. Well, and what I was
amazing.
going to say that makes so much sense with what you're talking about. Not only do you have the sun conjunct Jupiter, but they're both in their favorite signs. The sun is at home in Leo, so it's in its truest, boldest expression, and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so it just wants to pour love and beauty into the world. And you also have Jupiter in the 11th house, which I believe is its house of joy as well. So you have in Hellenistic astrology, so Jupiter is in its absolute favorite place to be in your chart. Which just expands its qualities. And then the sun is not necessarily the happiest in the 12th house, but it is in Leo. And so you just have it illuminating all of these expansive qualities.
That resonates. Like, you using the word joy really resonates. Again, Samuel Taylor Coleridge spoke a lot about joy. Joy is this sort of gateway. It's kind of the apotheosis of consciousness is to experience joy. It's that childlike wonder, just also not taking things too seriously. There's a beautiful quote from Aldous Huxley, which I'm not going to, it's too long. It's almost like a paragraph from his book, The Island. And it's something about treading lightly, learning how to tread lightly, even if there may be quicksands all about you. Because it's dense out there. It's like really dense out there on the planet, and there's so much that we can get pulled into and get dragged down by. And it's not about ignoring, the strife on the planet, but learning how to alchemize it and stay on a higher this vibration of joy. Like that, I really, okay, so where I live in Switzerland, where I have been living, at the bottom of the hill, because we live on a lake, there's a slide. And like I regularly like think about just going down there on my lunch break and just like getting on this slide, like wee, like that is who I am and will be till the day I die. I don't care how old. Well, thing is, it's part of a Lido, so you have to kind of pay to go in and then use the whole thing. So I've always been like, I'll probably do it. Maybe I'll just do it tomorrow. Like, fuck it.
Prioritizing joy.
Amazing.
You do have Jupiter in the sky is currently going over it's conjunct your natal Venus right now. I think exact, cool. Or almost exact. So even more so expanded.
I feel that a lot right now. I very much feel at this moment in my life, I feel at a pinnacle moment. It feels like I feel like I'm reaching an apotheosis. I'm not quite there, but it's like I feel like that sun moving towards its zenith.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot. You have a lot going on, and you have a lot that you can give to the rest of the world, which we need. We need more people like you. But I was just wondering, can you tell us about your journey? What drew you to philosophy, physics, psychology, chaos theory, your concepts on time? I mean, again, so many different subjects, and each one of them can be expansive in and of itself. So can you tell us like how you got here, what drew you to these to your interest in these concepts?
Yeah, for sure. So I had a spiritual awakening in 2018 that lasted the entire year. It was like a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. I wasn't brought up in a spiritual household. Like none of the information that I impart and embody was given to me by like a human context. It was very much a divine gift, if you will, and like wrought through a series of divine revelations, and then a journey of discovery and becoming, which I'll elaborate in a second. But it all began actually early 2017. And it was the final days of my grandmother's life. She had terminal cancer and she was 94. So we knew she was very close to death. And a way that I was spending quality time with her was to read poetry at her bedside. Now, I studied English literature and I have a master's in English literature as well. So the fact that I had never discovered T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets is kind of amazing. I knew about it. I just had never read it. And she had a copy at her bedside table, which I picked up. And I sort of opened the book at random, and it happened to be in some of the final pages. For those of your listeners who are not familiar, this is a meditation on time. It's 4 poems that constitute one poetic work, and it's a meditation on time. It's notoriously kind of impenetrable. I don't think so. I think it's actually like an incantation almost. People try and analyze it with their rational left brain, but essentially this poetry, I believe, has higher dimensional like mathematical codes like embedded within it about time and about the nature of consciousness. So I started reading to her these final verses, and it was literally like something was activated in my entire system. For the first time in my life, I felt the presence of God. It was like a divine moment. And to give you a sense of context, like I was a militant anti-theist. I not only didn't believe in God, I hated everything to do with it. I hated religion. I used to write Richard Dawkins fan mail. Like I was a vehement atheist. You know, I always knew that life was very beautiful and meaningful at a deep level because of how I responded to art and poetry. But through a spiritual lens, I was spiritually bankrupt, really. I was also seriously addicted to drugs and alcohol, and was for a very long time. I'm now in recovery, and recovery is part of this story and my awakening and my journey. So anyway, so this kind of singular moment of poetic discovery occurred. I believe that I received sort of codes, if you will, like this poetry activated me, but I didn't understand it. But I had this kind of mystical experience with my grandmother, because the poetry is also about death and dying and how you never die. And there's this endless cycle of beginning and ending. God, I actually have it. Where is it? Oh, I don't know where I moved it. I usually have it just here. I sort of wanted to read you some. Anyway.
Oh yeah, we would love that, actually. I mean, if you want to look at it, I just wanted to, while I say this really fast, and Jenna, I'm sure you're going to want to jump in here too, but go ahead and look for it, Arabella. But we noticed that, when we had our little break there, Jenna was talking about how fascinating your 1 degree of Leo and your 29th degree of Leo, your sun and your moon in the 12th house, which is all about death and dying and about the unseen, and about and it's also about transcendence. And so but it's the shadow side of the 12th house is depression, sadness, solitude, despair, but then
addiction.
the light side of an addiction.
Right.
The 12th house has a lot to do with addiction, so that makes sense in that part of your story as well.
Right. Yeah. Addiction. Addiction, something I've grappled with for a really long time. It's just awful, but I'm in recovery now. But addiction is manifests in multiple ways. You know, it's never enough. It's the whatever you have, it's never enough.
Well, and that oftentimes is reflected in the 12th house, because the 12th house is themes of like not belonging, like an unbelonging. And so, yeah, so the 12th house, especially in Leo just wants to be seen. It just wants to share its light. And you have so much in Leo. Your moon and your sun are like encompassing all of Leo, all of the degrees of Leo between your moon and sun. And it's like this energy of like, I just need to share my light with the world. But in the 12th house, it's like nobody's looking, or nobody understands, or nobody can see. And so of course that would manifest in something like addiction, because it's this intense disbelonging feeling. So just to validate you there. Also extremely amazing that you're in recovery and that you've been able to like face this head on, because that's a really powerful energy.
Thank you so much. I'm really blown away by you saying that. I grew up in a dysfunctional family dynamic where I was scapegoated. I'm going to be honest about that. I played that archetype of the scapegoat and being invisible. And it was absolutely excruciating. Like it almost eviscerated me. My childhood and adolescent kind of experience, and then it went on into my 20s until I sort of had to claim my own redemption and my own self-discovery. It was through the discovering the self and going through this profound remembering, like leaving Plato's cave. May I read to you?
Yes, please.
I just want to read to you this, what it was I read to my grandmother. We die with the dying. And by the way, this is from Little Gidding, the final part of Little Gidding from Four Quartets. We die with the dying. See, they depart and we go with them. We are born with the dead. See, they return and bring us with them. The moment of the rose and the moment of the yew tree are of equal duration. A people without history is not redeemed from time, for history is a pattern of timeless moments. So while the light fails on a winter's afternoon in a secluded chapel, history is now, and England. With the drawing of this love and the voice of this calling, we shall not cease from exploration, And the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time, through the unknown, unremembered gate when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning.
Okay. That was amazing. First of all. Second of all, that it makes perfect sense that you felt like you had a divine download with that poem, with those words in particular, because I feel like what you were describing, I mean, felt very much 12th house to me. The beginning, the end, the death, and the dying, everything about it. It was almost like speaking directly to you.
100%. That and that Jupiter-Saturn opposition, Jupiter representing life and growth, and Saturn representing time and death. It's that opposition between life and death and how they work together so well.
Yes, and Saturn being entropy, of course, which is linear time. And Jupiter, I don't know, Jupiter is not necessarily related to time, but it confers a kind of timelessness. It confers a time out of time. It can, you know what I mean? It's that moment where time is eternal, right? To see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. That's Jupiter for me.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting to put entropy with Saturn, because I feel like I've assigned entropy to Uranus, like the unpredictable, just like constant change. But you're right that entropy has a Saturnian quality because it's so intrinsically connected to time
and death. Entropy is why we die.
Yeah,
Entropy is why
a really
we age.
You're right. I love making entropy Saturnian instead of Uranian. That adds a whole new layer to it.
Rick Tarnas, this is not my own original idea. Rick Tarnas says that entropy is Saturnian.
That's so wild. I hadn't heard that before. I love it though.
I feel like we could talk about every single topic that you're interested in, Arabella, for hours and hours and hours. But I wanted to ask you some questions about some of your work as well.
Sure.
What can you explain to us what chaos theory is? Because I know this is one of your interests.
Yeah, chaos theory is essentially the study of systems, like dynamical systems, like, for example, the behavior of water. It could also be weather patterns or human behavior, and it detects the underlying order embedded within ostensible chaos. Okay, so it's looking at the patterns embedded within these like nonlinear systems. And what chaos theory shows us is basically that chaos doesn't really exist.
I love that.
Yeah.
I see that too. I mean, astrology feels like it could be under chaos theory then, correct?
That's what I was going to ask.
I mean, I'm sure that hasn't been studied in any formal way because that's quite left field. But it definitely relates to like the nature of time. So often what you need to discover hidden order is simply more time. Like, I'll give you an example. If you open the faucet of a tap slightly, if you open it like a tap of water slightly, it'll drip, drip, drip very consistently. If you open it slightly more, the dripping becomes erratic. So the tempo of the rhythm, the tempo of the water dripping is erratic and ostensibly chaotic. However, if you actually like record the pattern of the drips over a period of time, you can then see that there is actually a rhythm and an order, but you need more time to record it to see the pattern, to see the order. So, for example, you can look at like phases of history and human behavior. You know, the ancients very much saw eons and ages, or, you know, like the Kali Yuga, for example. So it's like we've been living in a very chaotic time for quite some time, right? But actually, you know, like the Mayan calendar, for example, sees like vast swathes of time. So these chaotic periods are actually part of a much larger dialectical unfolding, which is deeply ordered. It's just that it needs time for you to see the pattern. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Does it have to do kind of with like, so when I think about what you're talking about, I think about, for example, you know, how long a human being can exist on this planet, usually only up to about like 100 years. It's just a blip on the radar of the larger picture, the grander scheme of things. And so when we're looking at things from our human perspective, it's not accurate, I think. Because of what you're saying. So, for example, we'll only understand Pluto through a certain amount of signs. We'll never be able to see Pluto through an entire cycle in our lifetime. Yeah. So, exactly. Is that kind of what it?
Yeah. I mean, like the precession of the equinox, for example, that's like a 26,000 year cycle. You know, and like you said, we only, if we're lucky, get to live to 100 years. I mean, this is nothing. But yeah, I mean, that's potentially a really interesting area of research to pursue, Coco, you know, astrology and chaos theory. If anyone will have done it, it will be Rick Tarnas. I mean, I haven't heard of it, but of that being done, but it would probably be him, or I think Kieran LeGrice as well. He also went to CIIS. He does a lot of stuff in archetypal cosmology. So yeah, but that would be really interesting to sort of get into that, because astrology is essentially like, it's like mathematical patterns that bear archetypal signatures playing out through time in this stage of, you know, this like entropic continuum. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that definition for astrology. That's beautiful. That's perfect. That's what I want to say to everybody who ever asks me, like, what do you do as an astrologer? I'm just going to quote Arabella.
You've also shared in our emails your concept of petrichor as a dimension of consciousness. And Jenna, did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, this was really interesting to me. I was so curious how you were going to tie in Jupiter Sun with the concept of petrichor, because to me, petrichor means the smell of rain. I have no idea what you're referring to when you're talking about petrichor, like a consciousness, but I love the idea of the smell of rain relating to a state of consciousness.
Cool.
Like that same feeling, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm basically taking this term petrichor, which it is exactly that. It's the smell of the earth after it's rained, usually in the summer months when it's warmer. We all know that smell. It's like unbelievably delicious and evocative. And so what I'm doing with this concept, because it's a concept that I'm sort of architecting and delineating, it's similar to like what many philosophers have done in the past. For example, I think of someone like Julia Kristeva, who's a quite famous post-structuralist philosopher. She had this concept of abjection and the abject, right?
Yep.
Okay, Coco, you're nodding your head, so you know what I'm talking about. So she took this term and she made it her own, and she wrote books on it. That's what I want to do with petrichor. Like I've taken this word because it means something to me deeply, and it evokes something in me that I want to share with the world. So what do I mean by petrichor? So firstly, petra in Greek means stone, and ichor actually means the golden fluid that runs through the veins of the gods. That's what ichor means. So the people that termed, a couple of geologists or something, that termed the name of that made the term petrichor, they put the two together because apparently the smell emerges is to do with kind of a molecular reaction in rock, which is what helps produce the smell. So they quite poetically actually made a portmanteau. They put two words together and made this new word. So petrichor for me, it pertains to a frequency of consciousness. It pertains to a dimension of being. When I smell that smell, petrichor, right, it evokes a sense of infinite generative possibility. And, you know, when you think about people like Marcel Proust in Search of Lost Time, You know, it was the smell of his grandmother's madeleines when he was a child, right? Smell is so evocative. You can smell a perfume um, or hear a song. Conversely, like the senses are, you know, the gateway to the memory and to the meaning of existence, really. Because what is our life? Our life is consciousness embedded in space and time. That's what life is. That's where the meaning comes from it, is we're watching the unfoldment of consciousness through time. And it's through sensory evocation and memory and how that relates to memory that we have this experience of life. And I feel like the more enhanced that is, the more enhanced your experience of reality is, right? And our capacity to associate different feelings, emotions, memories, insights with, you know, different kind of sensory experiences, if that makes sense, right? Like how we can start weaving this web of meaning of our life, right? And so for me, petrichor pertains exactly to that. It pertains to the essence of what it is to be alive, which is that joy we've spoken about, right? So petrichor as a dimension, and it doesn't, you don't need to smell petrichor for this to be true. This is a term that I'm applying to a particular state. It could emerge when you listen to a particular song. It could be when you go to like a friend's wedding, right? Or a festival, or it could be maybe you're just driving in your car and you see a sunset and it's that moment of, I've arrived. It's the, I'm here. This is it. This is the pinnacle. And it, again, I quoted Blake earlier of To See a World in a Grain of Sand. It's that. The doors of perception have been opened wide and you are seeing the infinite there, held within space and time. So it's an apotheosis moment. You feel like you've literally sort of climbed up the mountain and you're at the zenith, you're at the peak. But rather than there being a sense of decline coming afterwards, the petrichor moment confers and suggests infinite generativity. Like every other moment to follow this one will also be a peak. Like anything's possible. Like all your dreams are going to be realized, and that you can create whatever you want, and that life is unimaginably beautiful. Like I had it the other day when I was swimming in the lake. I was swimming in Lake Como, actually, which is about an hour away from here, with one of my best friends. And it was like the sunlight, it was the golden hour. And the sunlight was that kind of golden, milky liquid where it's just diffusing the atmosphere. Lake Como is so poetic. And it was just like, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, this is it. Like, it's like, is what I'm saying resonating with you guys? Because it's
yes.
quite, yeah.
Yes.
100%.
100%.
I have a few thoughts with that because, well, one, just this whole time am thinking about how petrichor, how you were breaking down the word itself, meaning stone and of the gods. And what you're describing is literally the divine finding its way into dense form. So literally the smell of the gods in stone, or like the smell of the divine in stone, is literally what you're describing, of like, in this dense form that is humanity, a moment of godliness. So I think that makes a lot of sense, and it makes so much sense with Jupiter. You're right, of that feeling of just expansive, I have God on my side, is that feeling. It's that feeling of ultimate faith. And then also it just reminded me that Coco and I are literally making fragrances for the exact reason of what you were just talking about. We're making fragrances based on the planets, the archetype of the archetypes of the planets, working with our perfumer Mauricio. But so everything you were saying, I was just like, absolutely 100%.
I love that. So hopefully you can see now what I mean by the association of petrichor as I'm elaborating.
Totally.
And Jupiter and Venus. I'll give you another example. It was with the same friend, actually, because she just came to visit me. In one day, we saw a gigantic rainbow over the lake, which is obviously so auspicious and sort of suggestive. It was nighttime. We were sitting having some tea on the terrace, and over the lake, there was this huge firework display suddenly emerged out of nowhere. My friend Kate was like, well, to top this off, we just need to see a shooting star. And we look up and like, boom. Like literally the most spectacular shooting star that it must have been a meteor that came into the Earth's atmosphere and got burned up, because it was like a star just fell.
Whoa.
Fell And it was like, you know, petrichor is when the universe winks at you. It's like the twinkle of the eye, just giving you a cheeky wink. Like everything is so benevolent. Like the like fortune, it's the wheel of fortune and it's turning in your favor. It's very much that energy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you or are able to name it, because I think we've all felt that before, but it's hard to describe and it's hard to talk about, but you do it beautifully. And I think that's so amazing. And what an amazing image in my head now of like fireworks and a shooting star and a rainbow over the lake.
Putting it in.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was saying you'll probably attract it more now we've spoken about it as well. Now we've kind of given a name to it. Anyway, sorry, you were saying something.
No, you're right. Yeah, I feel like we'll start to notice it more and bring it in more. I was saying putting it into a sensory image, like form, like this is something that I'm really passionate about, Arabella, that you touch on in your book too, of just the power of art and sensory images. This is something I'm talking about all the time, that I think the way to reach people is through the senses, is through these artistic images. You say the cosmic poetry, I think is what you're talking about in your book. Yeah. And it's so true. This is like the direct channel into our heart is through these sorts of experiences. So to me, when I'm explaining something, it's through metaphor. It's through something that you can relate to in your sensual memory that unlocks the door into something much deeper. So using something like petrichor that everybody can relate to, I think is so powerful, because you can say all day, like, yeah, there's these moments where you just feel divine and you feel divinely connected. And you can understand that logically. But when you bring in like, it's like this petrichor feeling, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I feel that. I know that deeply. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much for your kind words. And I just love how much you guys resonate. It's really affirming.
It is. It's affirming to hear from you too, honestly, because sometimes Jen and I feel very alone in this.
Well, I think you're not normal people. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know,
it's true.
There's a lot of people out there who are not necessarily touching these sorts of depths, and that's okay. Because we're all divine beings having many different experiences across many different dimensions. And I think, you know, it's sometimes hard when you've walked out of the metaphorical cave and you can see this sort of multidimensional grid of reality, and then you're trying to communicate it to other people who are like, what are you on about? You're crazy. But you're not crazy. It's just that you see more. And, you know, you're obviously here to play a fundamental role in the great awakening of humanity and the evolution of consciousness. To quote William Blake yet again, I can't completely quote him because it's too long, but he speaks about, in Songs of Innocence and Experience, he speaks about the time of great prophecy, and there would come a time, and he's like quoting from the book of Revelation, when we would return to the Garden of Eden, and it would come through the experience of sensual enjoyment. That's what he says. And he says stuff like the nakedness of woman is the work of God. You know, it's like, so he really got it. It was about coming back into the body, coming back to the senses. It's a very feminine way. There's the way of Shakti, you know, the way of the goddess. This is not about transcendence, about immanence. It's about coming back into your body, right?
Amazing.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Jenna. Go ahead.
I was just going to clarify, that was William Blake.
Yeah. William Blake is just such a legend. He's amazing.
Yeah.
So amazing.
I've always wanted to dive into his writing more. I've not dove in as much as I would like to, but I know I would love it. I know it's just sitting there waiting for me.
Yeah. There's a few people who've walked this earth who I'm just like, how? Plotinus is another one. Like, this guy is like another level. Anyways, Coco, I know you wanted to say something.
Oh, no. I actually just wanted to, because Jenna just mentioned your book, and I just wanted to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about your book, Being and Becoming.
Oh, thank you so much for asking. I've been gestating this book since 2018. So since I actually had this awakening, and I forgot to mention earlier, my spiritual awakening, I went into recovery later that year. And 1 week into my Saturn returns, woke up and was like, I'm meant to do a PhD. It was like insane how closely related to my Saturn returns it was. And I started going to the British Library that year, and I was researching incessantly, and I was having this awakening. And it was towards the end of that year that I kind of set up a Word document on my computer and I wrote Being and Becoming. And that was the beginning of the book. And it has been a process of, me writing furiously and then not touching it for a couple of years. So it's really like it's a true gestation. Anyone who's written a book or written a thesis or done any sort of great creative work, it's the work of art for a reason. It's not the play of art. It's a work. It's a task.
It is hard.
I'm very much in that process now, but it's starting to come to fruition at a really alarming rate. Like it's speeding up. It's almost like it's now just flowing out of me. So like God willing, and I pray to Jupiter the Great Benefic and the powers that be, to the gods, that I get this thing published in the next year or two. That's sort of what I'm working on right now. And in essence, it is a series of essays that circumnavigate the shape of the spirit. It's about revealing the hidden order of time, beauty, and the human mind. And I use the word mind, knowing that in Greek, in ancient Greek, the word psyche meant mind/spirit. So when I use the word mind, I don't see it as separate from the spirit. It's a consciousness, basically. So what I'm doing in this book is it's nonfiction, obviously, but it's quite narrative driven. There's an arc to it. It's not a series of disparate essays. It's one whole aesthetic work. Is sort of taking people on a journey from the origins of the universe through the descent into the realm of experience, then back up again. Like the kind of Eleusinian mystery underworld journey of Demeter and Persephone going into the underworld and coming back. And I'm presenting to people a new framework of time, right? The first chapter is called Stitched Together by a Single Thread. I believe that we're in this sort of multi-dimensional cosmic tapestry, right? And we each belong to the same divine essence, but we're many different threads weaving together. I also see this world as like a poetic text. The word text comes from the Latin textere, meaning to weave, right? So I'm presenting these sorts of ideas to people, underpinned with the notion that time is not what it seems. Time is not linear and irreversible. Time is not a mother effing line. Like God is on a timeline. Like God has an age. Like grow up. Time is a spiral. It's a non-linear, multidimensional spiral, and I truly believe that the future flows backwards and calls us forward, and the future's already realized, and everything is perfect, and destiny is real, and everything is orchestrated. And I have seen this play out in life more times than I can possibly recount. The perfection of the unfolding. To come back to chaos theory, and I weave chaos theory into the book as well, of course, there is a deeply hidden order to our existence. So for anyone who might be listening to this who's struggling, or has been through a period of struggle or challenge or pain or grief or what have you, keep on, hold faith, like live from the future, see the end, live from that, and know that whatever is happening for your highest good. And there is a deep divine intelligence to all things, Yes. So I'm very much presenting that. The second chapter is called Cosmophilia. So it's about really the greatest love story we'll ever experience is about falling in love with the universe, which is the philosophy quest, right? It's about, and then it come to belonging. You speak about my chart and this archetype of sort of not belonging, because I grew up basically feeling like I wanted to die because I didn't belong. And I was like, what is going on here? Through my awakening, I realized that I was a child of God. I use the word God in the most sort of like philosophical, like expansive sense. And then I learned that, everywhere we belong to every single blade of grass, to every tree, to every ocean. Yeah, we're children of the universe. We're divine cosmic beings and we all belong. So this is something I really want to transmit in the book as well. The third chapter, I'm not gonna give you every chapter, but I'm giving you the first three. The first chapter is called The Agony of Beauty, and it's really about the ecstasy and the agony, the anguish and the suffering, coupled with the spectacular beauty of this existence. And how, by the way, there is also so much beauty in grief and pain, in pathos. And I think so many of us as a collective, we bypass this. And it's like, I'm a crier. Like I feel very deeply. I cry a lot. It triggers people so much when they see you crying, because people get very uncomfortable with difficult intentions. People will say, don't cry, don't cry. It's like, what? Why? I'm shedding tears. Like, tears are unbelievably poetic. Like, what even are they? It's like so magical that we cry. You know what I mean? So I really want to transmit this to people, that like, if you lose someone you love and you grieve, like, how profound is that? And I think what we've lost is collective catharsis. The ancient Greeks together, they made tragedies. They had tragic plays so they could come together and cry together. We don't do that anymore, and I think we really need to revive this and integrate this back into society. And I think this is one of the best things we could do to actually heal as a collective and start healing trauma, the intergenerational trauma, is through acknowledging the beauty of pain and to feel that beauty together.
Wow, yeah. I believe that grief is a type of alchemy. Grief is the product of time and love together. And grief is the alchemical process of transformation with those two.
That's beautiful. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, my partner and I always say to each other, like, I love you so much it hurts. Or when we look at our little animal companions, we're like, we love them so much it hurts. It's painful. But it's like, that is what I think what you were talking about. Like, there's beauty in it. And there's also there can be profound sadness, but that in and of itself is also beautiful too.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point, Coco. The way that we so often say that we love something so much that it hurts. Like there is this like inherent discomfort embedded in these.
It's too vulnerable.
Yeah, it's very vulnerable. And it's like in that vulnerability, like you're experiencing this elation and this euphoria, and with it is also the pain and the grief that's there. It's like it's all together in those petrichor moments to bring it around to that.
Definitely. I mean, I really feel like we can only go as high, sort of as low as we've gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, part of this human experience is contrast as well. I think there is such a thing as sort of suffering that's ugly and not beautiful. There isn't beauty in it. Do you know what I mean? There's like, human trafficking isn't beautiful at all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, we need to figure that out, and I think when cosmic consciousness, when the original one like forgot itself in order to return to itself, part of that forgetting meant that terrible things like human trafficking and famine and whatever has occurred, because the loss of consciousness was so great. And I feel like our task is to eliminate that which is not beautiful by alchemizing it, transcending it, and raising the vibration of the planet. And conversely with that comes like, it's really about beauty. Like, this is something I like to talk about and I meditate on a lot, is what beauty is and how we can integrate it more deeply into our lives, and I think the more like deeply you feel, the more deeply you've lived life, really. And I think if you're shallow, it makes life very easy about how unbelievably boring and unsatisfying,
Exactly.
Yeah. 100%.
Exactly. And I think people are starting to wake up to this idea a lot more. I think for a long time, people have just accepted a boring existence because we've just been numb. We've been completely numbed to our bodies, to our feelings. So yeah, what you were talking about earlier with William Blake and this like feminine awakening of sorts, feminine just coming into the body and and feeling embodied and experiencing more. And as we experience this embodied awareness, I think more and more people are waking up and realizing, wait, I don't want to live this boring, numb life. Not saying that everybody's life is boring, but there's a lot of people are living very interesting lives out there, but I think a lot of people are waking up and feeling that their life is unfulfilling.
Yeah. A lot of people are anesthetized, in our society. You mentioned capitalism, didn't you, Coco, in one of our emails? I'm not an anti-capitalist, by the way, and I'm not an economist, so I don't have the expertise to really deconstruct our financial systems. But what I do know is that the current iteration of debt-based capitalism that we have propagates consumption. It propagates this numbness, it propagates this anesthesia, it thrives on us being asleep and being disembodied, because then we're constantly seeking something outside of ourselves to satisfy the void that is insatiable, basically.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say a few minutes ago when you were talking about how people bypass grief. People don't want to feel it. They don't want to feel anything negative. And so as a result, everybody's constantly numbing. And as far as capitalism goes, I agree with you. I also think that we can't capitalism, the only way that it can exist is through hierarchies and a hegemonic society, and so I'm hoping that maybe there is another way for people to be able to create and give their gifts to the world and be able to survive on what they get in return from that, but in a way that there isn't this sort of hierarchical, patriarchal society where oppressed populations have to exist in order for capitalism to exist. But that's my feminist side talking.
Yeah. That's like a whole, I feel like we could have a whole other discussion about this, but yeah, I feel like when you're talking about utopia, that's something that I'm always thinking about too, is this concept of hierarchies and how it feels like that is what needs to go. That's like, before we can get to any sort of utopia, we have to dismantle this idea of hierarchical thinking, of like, there is an above and there is a below. Instead of that, more reframing it into this like concentrated versus expanded. I'm curious what we can, I mean, we're nearing the end, but I'm curious what your thoughts are with that in terms of hierarchies and this utopian ideal.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, patriarchy is not in utopia. Absolutely not.
Even though they want to believe that it is, right?
It's so bum out. It is so bum out, and it is so done. I'm so over it. It's so not the vibe at all. Like I'm doing a talk for the Scientific the Medical Network in July, actually, for a symposium, and the topic I'm discussing is on kind of the rise of a new like priestess order and like a revival of the Eleusinian mysteries and sort of the old sort of psychedelic initiatory like feminine ways that have been lost, right? And I just think about that, and I think about how like yummy and delicious it is, and compare that to the vibe of someone like Donald Trump, and like how unbelievably not delicious that is. Do you know what I mean? How does it feel in your body when you see someone like him or like Kim Jong-il or like these people? Like, you are not it. This is not it. It's not beautiful, and it's not beautiful because I think the masculine is not like, it's not really designed to lead in that way. I think, the masculine and the feminine, we have gender polarity for a reason. They're very different. That's very beautiful. I do think the masculine is here to provide and protect to a degree. It's here to provide structure and to hold the feminine, but like to hold her as in like lift her up. So the female is on top, not dominating, on top because he's lifting her up. Do you see what I mean? There's a sort of like a love of the feminine and an elevation of the feminine, because the feminine's soft. Like, women are much more physically vulnerable than men. we give birth, we have different bodies. Our bodies are curvilinear and erotic and beautiful. And the masculine is not that, but the masculine is also strong and directive, and it has a physical strength that we don't have. And I think when these two polarities can come into balance, that's when we're going to experience utopia. And for me, like a matriarchal society, because women are inherently, like, the feminine in its truest sense is inherently not, doesn't dominate. It can't. It's
Right.
just, it's physically not like equipped to dominate. For me, a matriarchal society is not women ruling over men. It's about reorienting our connection to the great cosmic mother. Yeah. It's about reorienting our connection to the womb, to Kali, you know, to birth and destruction and that energy that creates worlds. If God has a gender, it is not a male, because men don't give birth. Just, it's so obvious. I mean, it's kind of childish. But again, it's not an either or, it's a both and paradigm. Like that utopia looks like to me, it's both and it's equality, but really reorienting, because the feminine's been so suppressed by this dominator model that you've spoken about, because that's what patriarchy is. It's dominator. It's a dominator model. So it's a triangle with like a centralized system of power oppressing. And we need to decentralize. We need to decentralize all of that and like lift the feminine up and really focus again on feminine, on erotic, like the erotic power of the feminine, actually. And I think men at large need to learn how to hold the eros of the woman without taking it, because women are so powerful erotically that a lot of men just can't keep their shit together when they see the feminine. It's like grow up, how to just hold Shakti in her beauty and her deliciousness and keep your dick in your pants. Like, grow up.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I got so excited to do this interview after I listened to a couple of your podcast episodes. Your podcast is called Cosmic Codex, and it used to be called Sacred Wisdom.
Yeah.
And I was listening to episode number 21, where you talked to Dr. Eliza Robertson, and then the 22 where you talked to Dr. Alka Aurora.
Yeah.
And I just loved everything that you were saying in those episodes. I was walking my dog down the street, like clapping, going, yes, yes, because of you were pretty much saying what you had just said right now. But that was going to be my next question is what your take on feminism, the patriarchy, capitalism, and Lilith, what your take is on all of those subjects. But I kind of feel like you already said a lot, but is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think what I would say just in terms of feminism, I don't identify as being a feminist. I used to, and I don't anymore. And the reason for that is because I think feminism, as a movement with various waves, has sort of run its course because feminism was still operating within a patriarchal paradigm. Do you know what I mean? I'm here for matriarchy. I'm here for going beyond what feminists want. No. It's like, I don't want men and women like equal, like in this like society. In this fucked up society where like women are getting the same pay. I'm like, no, we need to dismantle everything, and women need to be worshipped.
I think you're the only person in the world, Arabella, that I can have this conversation with and see like, okay, I understand why you're not a feminist.
I trigger so many people when I talk about this. I trigger men and women. I trigger so many people because of the intensity of it, and like, you know, to come back to astrology and the archetypes, whatever that is in that passion, and there's also kind of like I'm taking no prisoners energy with which I conduct my life that I also think sort of triggers people.
Well, funny you should mention it. This is a perfect segue for your chart, because that energy is intensely disruptive. That is why it's triggering, because that that is like the foundation of our paradigm, is what you're talking about, that needs to change. And so of course people are going to hear that and be like, what are you saying? No, go away. But how that reflects in your chart, I think, and what I find in almost all of the charts of the people that we have on this podcast, of Coco and I's charts, of everybody who seems to have this perspective, is a prominent Lilith placement. And you have Lilith at 29 degrees Scorpio, which is so powerful. The energetic degree of Scorpio, which you could argue is her home. I don't actually know if Lilith technically has a home sign, but if she did, I feel like it would be Scorpio. And your moon at 29 degrees Leo is exactly squaring that. And that's in your 12th and 3rd house. So it's like you talking about this passion to disrupt and to, just kind of go from the foundation, from the very roots, and like prune and clear all of the bad, get rid of anything that isn't beautiful, and the take no prisoners. That is so Lilith.
Right. Yeah.
It is.
No, I resonate. I didn't know that. There's loads of stuff about my chart you're telling me that I didn't know. I don't know about my nose, did not know about Lilith. But yeah, I kind of feel like this time on the planet is so pivotal. I just don't really care what people say. So long as I know that I'm in alignment with truth and beauty and it's coming from a pure intention, I don't care. Like patriarchy needs to go down, and if that means we burn it to the ground, then so be it. I don't care.
A woman to that.
Yeah, right.
You are literally like speaking with Lilith, I feel like, as you say that. And that's so powerful. And I feel like that's exactly what we need right now. And Lilith in the sky at the moment, the Black Moon Lilith, is in Scorpio right now. So you're nearing a Lilith return. So when you talk about this like activation and this new beginning, also the nodes are currently in Virgo and Pisces. So they're activating your 1st and 7th house, which are some of your cardinal houses. But in a year and a half or so, or maybe I have to check my exact dates on this, but in about a year to a year and a half, the nodes are going to shift. The lunar nodes are shifting into Leo and Aquarius. So the South Node will be going over all of your Leo placements. All of that to say, I think you are correct on your read. That is a very activating time for you. You have a lot of really activating astrology.
Yeah, it feels big. Whatever's going on in my life right now, it feels like tectonic plates are shifting. And it feels like everything I've been working towards for so many years is about to come to fruition. It feels like harvest time. And I'm telling my body, like, are you ready to receive this amount of joy and pleasure?
Yes. Well, and the last thing I'll say about that I just recognized. So we talked about Jupiter in the sky is at the early degrees of Cancer. It's currently conjunct your natal Venus at 5 degrees Cancer. Your natal Venus is opposing your natal Uranus. So Jupiter, you have a Jupiter-Uranus opposition at the moment as well. So this intense, activating, liberating, motivating, inspiring, like, let's go, get it all done, get it all out there, is happening right now. I'm excited for you.
Thank you so much. I just find it endlessly fascinating how these archetypal patterns play out in our lives at an individual and collective level. And like for me, anyone who sort of dismisses astrology is just really not understanding like the intrinsic ontology of the universe, which is it's multi-layered and it's archetypal. You know, it's this beautiful archetypal drama. Right? That's why Shakespeare still resonates 500 years later. It's because it's this archetypal drama. You know, it's amazing, like listening to what you're saying and how true this is for my life. And it's very specific. This is not me reading a horoscope in a newspaper. You're giving me very specific information. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, I think that's one of the, that is one of the reasons why Jen and I are doing what we're doing, but it's also because people just don't really have an understanding of it and have this idea of it as being some kind of woo thing that you can just look up in the Sunday paper and the New York Times or whatever. But it's so much more rich and it's so much more deep so yeah, we want to get it out to people what it really is, what it really represents.
Well, thank you. This is really important work that you guys are doing. And I love it. I
You
just love the
too.
concept. Thank you. No, I love the
Yes.
concept that you're doing, and I'm sure you're going to help, and I'm sure you are already helping lots of people illuminate their understanding of reality. So that's awesome.
Thank you. And yeah, same to you. I'm very excited for your book to come out. I'm very excited to read it, and follow along with everything. And I feel like you are the perfect person to welcome into our coven, into this world, into this podcast. When we talk about exploring the archetype of the witch, it's people who pierce through the illusions and find what's deeper and try to bring it up to the surface. Those very Persephonic themes of descending into the underworld and bringing up what's underneath to air out, to show the world. And I feel like you embody that. And I guess to close, how do you feel that you relate to the archetype of the witch? And if so, how?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I very much relate to the sorceress. I sort of prefer the word sorceress.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but sort of that magician. I know the magician and the witch are slightly different, but archetypally, the notion kind of like the Merlin, like being a female Merlin, perhaps more than a witch. Obviously, I have a lot of time for witches and what that means, because witches are kind of there on a liminal threshold, aren't they? They would often live at the just outside the village, on the edge of the woods or whatever. They're kind of threshold guardians. I used to have cats. I used to have 3 cats, and obviously witches are associated with cats. Witches are dangerous women, so all of these things I really resonate with. But if I got down archetypally, I would say it's more Merlin, like, yeah, more like hermit, Merlin, magician vibe, like Gandalf and Lord of the Rings. Like, I really, you know what I mean? Sort of like coming and going
Mhm. Yeah.
places and just like dispensing sort of magic, like having a star,
Yeah.
like a
I feel
magic
like that's what
star.
you're doing.
Oh, thank you. And I'm
Yeah,
wearing
you're taking divine you're taking divine inspiration, and you're putting it out into the world. You're following what your divine truth is, and you're giving it to others. That is magic.
Thank
That's
you.
totally magic.
Have you guys seen Lord of the Rings, the film trilogy?
Mhm.
Yeah. In the first one, when they're in the mountains, they have to go through like beneath through the mountains with all the goblins, and there's that beast, that like demonic beast made out of fire that comes. Gandalf and this beast have a standoff. Okay. So the energy of Gandalf, when he says to this like gigantic demon, you will not pass, and he's just like squaring it head on, and he like puts his staff down. That energy is the energy that I kind of experience in life.
Yes. That's you
That
in the patriarchy.
energy, like that, is it just like, fuck you, like like feeling this power, like this power there, It's like cosmic power, like readily available.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that. I
Amazing.
love that so much, and I relate to that so hard. That divine, it's like a rage, but it's not like an uncontrolled rage. It's like a
Power.
absolutely
Raw
not. I refuse.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's like Rosa Parks, on the bus when she was told to move because she was black, and she was like, no, actually. Like,
Like, actually, I refuse. Actually, I have
no.
this.
And then she sparked off a whole, like, the civil rights movement, pretty much, just from that one decisive action. Like, so brave. It's a
Mhm.
lot to do with courage as well. I think the witch archetype and this energy, of being courageous, of standing up in the face of oppression and whatever, and just facing it head on and saying, actually, no.
All of your placements in Leo, Leo is all about. I mean, one of the characteristics of Leo is being courageous, and so you have, your sun, your moon, and Mercury, and your South Node. So this is familiar territory for you. It comes naturally to you to just be courageous. At least that's what your chart says.
Thank you. I feel that. I was expelled from a couple of schools because of my how I would defy authority. If I didn't respect it or understand it, I would defy. You know, I think as I've grown older, I've managed to channel, like, I would always put my head above the parapet also. Like, if someone else was being undermined or bullied, I would always, like, stand up and put my head above the parapet. And I think that's also that leonine loyalty as well. Loyalty is
Totally.
so important to me, like integrity of relationships and having the courage to stand up for what is right is really important to me. And people who can't do that, I find incredibly difficult to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Leo, Coco and I are also both Leo risings, so we relate to this too quite a bit as well.
Awesome.
That's amazing. That was powerful and beautiful. Coco, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I think the only thing I wanted to add is that we just want to have you back again someday to talk about some of these, maybe flesh out some of these concepts that you have, especially in particular to time, because I know how passionate you are about it, and I would love to hear more about that in the future.
Oh yeah, we
But
could
other than that,
spend a whole episode talking about time. Definitely. Thank you.
That would be wonderful. But other than that, thank you so much for allowing us to take up some of your time and ask you all these questions and bringing all your joy to the world.
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you. It's such an honor and a privilege, to talk about ideas. So thank you so much for asking me. I'm just really honored that you would ask me. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm trying to picture where Arabella would be in the Coven meeting room with all of the people that we've covered so far. And I think obviously Hildegard of Bingen, you would be getting to know personally.
Yeah.
I think her and Dieta would get along really well.
Oh, totally. Ana Mendieta.
Who's that?
You should check her out. I think you'd really like her. She's an artist. We covered her in one of our podcasts.
Okay.
If you want to check it out.
Yeah, I'll give it a listen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again. And this is always where it gets awkward for us.
No, I wanted to ask you, okay, bye. Thank you and bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.